What's going on? Welcome to Black Women Stemming. I'm Moriah.
And I'm Dre.
We're two best friends navigating our STEM careers and life in our almost 30s.
We sit down every other week to discuss our STEM careers, highlight some badass women in STEM, and laugh a lot along the way.
You ready?
No, are you ready?
Let's go.
Hey girl.
Hey.
How are you?
What is it? Wednesday?
Hump
day.
Corny. She's corny. Oh my goodness. So we have one episode left. This is episode 3. It's coming close to the holidays, and we figured we would give you guys some actual advice. We got to show y'all our professional side. We want to give you some unsolicited advice. So we're going to talk about things to consider before you
take a job.
Yes, before you say yes to a job. And there are things that now I've realized, like, I would have never thought about that coming out of college, to think about those things when I'm choosing a job.
Exactly. Because I feel like when you're coming out of college, you're just like, listen, who gonna pay me?
Exactly. Like, any more than the internship level pay that I was
I want it.
Good. Exactly. Number 1 on the list, obviously, what's the pay?
Yeah. I feel like that's everybody's numero uno for real.
Number 1, what is the pay? So that basically means when you go to a job, how much money are you going to be paid for your services?
Right.
But the thing that I think most people don't consider is all that is actually involved with your pay.
Yeah.
So, for example, one thing to consider is your pay salary or is it hourly? I had never considered that until I went on an interview and I love the job. And the salary was great. You know, they give you like an annual salary.
Right.
And then they were like, oh, yeah, salary. There's no overtime and, you know, whatever. And I'm like, wait, what do they mean? And this is like...
Is that because you were used to hourly?
I've never worked anything but hourly. Federal government, state government, private. It's always been hourly. And I was like, so that means if I work overtime, I would still be paid the same amount? And they're like, yeah. You get a set pay no matter what hours you work. So say for instance, if you went in there and they said we're going to pay you $15,000 a year, and you're thinking, okay, I'm working 40 hours a week. If I work 45 hours a week, if I work 50 hours, money. You get $15,000.
They tripping, because guess what? If that's what I'm getting for 8 hours a day, I'm working my 8 hours a day, and when my 8 hours hit, I'm out.
And that was just going based off of my experience. Like, I know that in engineering, a lot of times you have to work overtime.
Right.
So why would I sign myself up to work for free? That's just like me saying, I'm going to come in here and work 20 hours. You still going to pay me 40 hours of work? No. Right. So here are some other things you need to consider with the pay. What are the health benefits like?
Yeah. That's definitely a priority.
That's a huge priority.
And people should really like...
So, for example, say for instance, I'm with like a smaller company. Mm-hmm. I technically don't pay for my health insurance, but the problem with that is basically like I just get basic stuff. So like I get my checkup every year, I get like a dentist appointment every year, and that stuff is free. But anything additional, I'm basically paying out of pocket, full cost. Do I feel like I have good health benefits? No, I don't feel like I have good health benefits. I think for like the government and things like that, you know, you're gonna have.
But see, that's the benefits. Pro and con. Mm-hmm. See, like, so I'm government, and I know, like, even though I might be paying a little bit more when it comes to my health benefits, I know that I'm covered. Exactly. You know, and I don't have an issue with that.
Exactly.
And then we're also offered like, you know, flexible spending accounts.
Yeah, we have that too.
You can like put money into from your check, and you can use that towards like doctors' co-pays and stuff like that.
And that actually ties into my other point on the pay is, what kind of retirement plan do they offer? And the reason why I said that ties into it is because like a lot of time the flexible spending plans that you get for your health care, you can actually use that as like a 401k kind of thing. Like it's actually an investment account itself. So obviously that's important. So with the retirement plan, another thing that you have to consider, does your company contribute to your retirement plan? Do they match your contribution?
Matching is like...
Yeah. I feel like with the government, it's typically they match. Because I know when I worked for the Navy, they matched up to like 6% or something. And then when how I work now, private, she doesn't match my contribution, but she does a contribution at the end of each year, which is a sizable amount. And then another thing, so say for instance, how we're talking specifically about the retirement plan now, like I remember when I worked for the Navy, they matched 6%. I knew for a fact that they would match 6%. Whereas with my private company now the contribution that she gives at the end of the year is based on how well the company does that year.
So if you don't make any good money that year,
her contribution would be much less than it typically is. Like maybe instead of $6,000 that year, it would be $3,000 or $2,000. You really don't know. Whereas with a more consistent thing with the government, I know
you're getting
6% of my contribution will be matched.
Right.
Yeah, and it's up to whoever it is. So they could say, I didn't like your performance this year. Maybe I'll give you less, or maybe I'll give you the maximum amount. So that's something that you need to consider, and that's something that you need to ask. What's the retirement plan like? What kind of contributions does the company make? Or certain companies also are like employee owned, so you'll get like a percentage of whatever the company makes and stuff with your retirement plan. So it's different stuff, but you need to ask because that factors into how much you're bringing home. Really. When I graduated from college, I went straight to work for the Navy, right? And when I tell you that federal sick and vacation time is beautiful. I was working in Philly. I would take off basically every Friday, drive home to Baltimore, spend the weekend with my boyfriend, and drive back to work Monday morning. Like, that's how much vacation and sick time I got straight out of college.
Yeah.
Girl, I got to my private job, and I said,
is it combined?
Am I a slave? I was like, you don't need me here.
You kind of are. You kind of are.
That is a big deal.
Yeah.
When it comes to, because that's essentially free, not free money, but
it is.
It's money
in time.
I wish that I would have thought of that before. So the last one on money and pay is, how often are raises given, and what is the requirement to be awarded a raise?
So in the government.
Yeah, with the government.
It's no such thing as raises. Kind of, sort of. So you go by steps, and when you reach a certain step, it stops, and then your steps go up like every 2 years or more. And then once you reach the last step of that grade, you have to do a promotion package. But it's not guaranteed that you're going to receive that promotion. Right. You have to have a good package, and you're also competing with other people in your organization for that promotion.
Right.
So it's like a 50-50 or less chance that you'll get it. How is it in the private sector?
So my experience has been that every year you have an evaluation, essentially. I've always gotten a raise. I typically get I've always gotten the maximum raise working private. So it's basically like you're evaluated on how you've performed that year, and then the raise is based on,
your performance.
Your performance. How well did you do? What did you contribute?
Right.
Things of that nature. But for the federal government, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember when I was there, like every year you do get like an adjustment based on the living.
Sometimes.
Oh.
So locality, like a locality.
That's exactly what
I'm
talking
sometimes, because I don't think we got it 1 year. So it depends.
So it basically goes by the trend.
The government.
Okay.
The government controls that. So if they choose to give us something, please give us something in January. Thank you. That would be lovely. Right. But I know we don't get it all the time. So we gonna see if we gonna get it this year. But
okay, so number 2 on the list. How will the company invest in your growth?
That's a good question.
That is a huge deal. People don't think about that until you get to a place and you're like, I've been stagnant for 3 years.
Yeah.
What is the next step? How are they helping me get there? And then more importantly, you have to think, if I needed to go get a job right now, would I be more qualified than I was walking in the door? Think about this. Do they have tuition assistance?
Yeah.
Will they pay for you to go to school, to get your master's, to get your bachelor's? Even if this is not just for people in STEM or people with college degrees.
This is period.
Yeah, because like Amazon will pay for your college tuition.
Really?
If you work there. Yeah, like one of my really close friends, she works at Amazon and she has tuition assistance from them.
Do they have to give years back? Because I will say, so the contracting company that I used to work for.
Speak on it.
Which is why I did not take anything from them. So the contracting company I worked for before I worked for the government actually offered tuition assistance, but you had to give years based on how much they gave you. Yep. So I paid out of pocket for my master's degree with the help of my mom. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, love you.
you need to consider certain things. Like what Moriah said is basically certain companies will pay for your tuition or will pay a percentage of your tuition. But let's say they pay for 3 credits or something. They may say for every credit that you take, you owe us 1 year or 6
That's
months
outrageous.
or 2 years. I'm telling you, this is important. And I work for a very small company and they don't have a program yet. She was actually going to create the program for me. And when the first thing that she offered, I said, never mind.
What she offered?
It was awful. I think it was like per credit, however much it was like for my master's, I will owe her like 12 years or something. It was insane. And then she wasn't going to pay my tuition up front. I would still have to pay out of pocket and then she would reimburse me.
Heck no.
I would need to get an A. It was extreme.
Ridiculous.
Which I understand because you want to make sure that you're making good on your investment. If I'm paying for your tuition, I want to make sure you're staying here. I don't want you to run off.
Right. It's like they'll pay for you to get, your education, but it has to be in like at least for where I am, it has to be in the subject has to be what you're working in.
Right.
So I can't be in IT and then say, oh, I want to go for history.
Right.
No.
Because it wouldn't make any sense. They're like, so clearly you don't want to be here.
How is this going to help us as a company if you go get a history degree?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So, but they don't require, at least I don't think so. But usually, most people don't leave the government once they get there.
Yeah, because it's nice and comfy.
Yeah.
But so another thing outside of tuition, say for instance, you are not going back to school, whatever else, maybe you already have all of your degrees. All of my certifications, any training or anything like that for my certification, my job will pay for that. I think that that's a bare minimum. I think that your job should pay for certifications. Yeah. Because those are things that make you marketable when they're basically trying to sell you for a project. Yeah. I know it sounds really weird. It almost sounds like you're a prostitute or something.
No, it makes sense, though.
But like every time a company, I don't know about for government, no, not for government, but for private, you have to basically compile your employees and say, okay, this employee is a Baltimore City resident. That's why you should hire us. And this employee has this degree.
It's a way to make you stand out and marketable.
So they're going to use you for marketability for those things. So they need to pay for your certification is what I think. And if they don't, that should raise a red flag, I think. Yeah.
But that also helps with like education, Why keep somebody on your team that doesn't continue their education in the field?
Exactly. Because it only helps the company.
Right.
And if you're willing to dedicate to my growth, then that's the place that I want to stay. Right. So another part of career growth, this is a really big deal, is are there planned out career paths? So say, for instance, if you were to go to a company like Boeing, I was really impressed when I went to like one of their college kind of presentations.
Like a career day or something?
Because what they do is they actually have different career tracks where, say, for instance, if you wanted to go into management, then you would be on that career track. So it's like there's a projection for...
It's a pipeline.
Exactly. Like, okay, these are the steps that you need to hit. These are the trainings that you need to do. My company does not have that. We're very small. That's really important. Like, if you go to a company, especially if you're coming straight out of college, it's important that there's a plan for you because it's hard to know what you want to do next.
But with millennials, we sometimes are undecided. So one minute we're like, oh, we want to go down this track, and then we see something cool and we're like, I changed my mind. I don't know if this company is the right fit for me. Let me just jump over here. We have no issues with that.
But that's the thing, is when you get those companies that have those different career tracks, it's easier for you to move within different parts of the company. So like, say for instance, if you're like Northrop Grumman, I'm just throwing out big name engineering companies, guys. Like, if you're in a place like that, or even like when I worked for the Navy, I was in program management and I kept saying, I want to go over to the structures division. Like when you get a company or an organization that's big enough, you can move through different parts of the organization, and it's a lot easier than trying to get a job from an outside company. But when you have a place that's small, like my company basically only does structural design. there's nowhere for me to go.
Yeah.
If there's something else I want to do.
Yeah, that's the thing I like about the government, because you can be in there. I always tell people, like, I'm like, if you really want a stable job and you don't want to take the risk of going private, look at the government.
Yeah.
If it's not something that you're truly into, like, but you just need a job at the moment, get in there. Because once you're in there, it's so much easier to move around and try new things and experience new positions than being on the outside and struggling to get into that door.
I completely agree. Here's another one. What perks do they offer? Have you considered that? Like,
what do you consider perks?
So I consider perks, like, for certain jobs, maybe they'll have like financial assistance for helping you purchase a home.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know, like maybe they'll help you with a loan or like some type of money down if you get a home within like a certain distance of the
that must
job.
Be real private sector-ish.
I think Hopkins does it for certain stuff, like in the Johns Hopkins.
Well, yeah, the state does do it. So they have like a live, but it's live where you work. Yeah. So it's not exactly like, oh, I want to live in Laurel, but I go, you know, but I work for Hopkins.
Live near.
Right. You have to live near the campus.
Right. Another thing is educational loan repayment assistance. I know a lot of times with like the city, Baltimore City, it's like if you make a certain amount of payments.
Will they?
Yeah, they'll start to help you pay back.
I know they did that for teachers.
Yeah, I think they do it for like Baltimore City employees, but obviously there are stipulations to it. Location matters. Let me tell you, the job in Philly, I quit. I quit.
Because it was in Philly?
Not only because it was in Philly. Philly was okay. The problem was that it took me so long to get to work every freaking day.
So is the traffic worse up there than it is here?
It was so bad. And they were doing construction on, I think it was like 95 or something. If it was no traffic, my drive was literally like 15 minutes. But in the morning, if I left after 6:30 a.m.
After 6:30 in the morning?
Yes, it would take me like 45 minutes to get to work. So think 15 minutes to 45 minutes. And to get home, it could take me up to like an hour. And I was not going far. It was just so much traffic.
That's a big thing.
I was miserable.
Like in like the IT field, it's a lot of jobs in DC and stuff like that. And I just knew I did not want to make that commute.
Keep it cute. It's not cute to be spending 4 hours for transportation. At all. You are not going to have a life. You think like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal. Because that's what I thought. Like, oh, it's not a big deal.
Because when people see the money, it's not a big deal. Like, I know people that live in Maryland, but they work in Virginia. Let me say, that Virginia traffic, it's no joke.
But that was not for me. Now I know. If it's a job, I want to know how long it's going to take me. Okay, so another one with the location is, will you have to pay for parking? You don't think about that, but do you want to pay $120 a month to pay for it? This is
definitely a private sector thing.
No, that's not.
You had that in the government too? But you had to pay for parking?
Yes, it was literally. You would have to pay for parking, and they offered something where it was like a garage in the building, and monthly parking was like $125. And that's why they would pay for a monthly bus pass, because a lot of people didn't want to pay for parking because it was downtown. Well,
yeah, that's location. Mm-hmm. So it's like, do you want to work? Because my mom works for the state and they have to pay. They have garages, but they got to pay for it.
Exactly.
I never had to pay.
I've never had to pay at a job, but that was a job I went for an interview for. And they were like, yeah, you have to pay for parking. There's no parking assistance, anything. We'll buy we'll buy you a monthly bus pass. And that's about it. I was like, no. Because then you have to factor in, okay, that's a cost. That's taken out of my salary.
Yeah. But is it that expensive?
Yeah, it's expensive to me. 0 compared to $125. Let me think. 0 to $120. I want 0.
I think a lot of people got to pay for parking.
I'm never paying for parking. Listen. If y'all are out there looking for someone to fill a job, don't go to my LinkedIn. Don't look at my resume if you got to pay for parking, because the answer is no. I don't care if you pay.
What if it's your dream job?
Don't care. It's the principle. I'm not paying for parking. Like, is the area safe and secure? So think about those kinds of things. Are you going to feel safe if you get off at 9 o'clock at night and you got to walk to your car? Are you going to be stressed about it all the time? So that brings us to our next point: the people and the environment.
Well, they lie.
Well, if you go into the job, you can feel the vibe.
Sometimes. So depending on what type of government job you have, you might not even have access to that type of situation interview-wise. You will only get the feel from whoever is interviewing you. Yeah. And that's all you'll get.
That may not even be your supervisor sometimes, honestly. But yeah, so is there any kind of social scene at the job? That's something that you need to consider. Because one thing I can say, and y'all are probably going to laugh at me, I've worked at my job for like four years now. I'm very lonely. Like,
you don't have nobody to talk to?
Like, I love COVID because me and my boyfriend work together in the house, and I have someone to talk to. You
don't talk to your coworkers?
How? Like,
you get some advice from the old heads?
No, like, I'll talk to them for words,
but not have like an actual like
it may be a casual conversation, like, oh, haha, sunny today.
And see, that's another thing. Your boss need to hire like a mixed age group. It needs to be like, the demographic needs to be mixed up. But again, I'm giving them a pass because like my company again is very small. Yeah. But say for instance, when I worked for the Navy, it was a really huge emphasis on like the social aspect of it. There were committees you could join, clubs you could join. Basically when you come in, like they kind of like hire in stages almost. Mm-hmm. It's like the graduating class comes in and all of you have just graduated college or something. Yeah. So you're going to be like around the same age. Probably you can find people in your demographic. You're going to have like, they're going to be company outings, and it's definitely very different compared. So I will say at my contracting job, the ages varied. It was some people there around my age, some older.
Where that's a big deal. If you're someone who's like a loner and stuff, and you would prefer to just work by yourself, which is crazy because like you know how I am. I'm very introverted. I don't really like to talk to people that much. So for me to
why are you lonely?
That's what I'm saying. So for me to be like, oh, I'm lonely, that tells you like I don't talk to anyone at work anytime. I'm by myself. Now when I worked for the Navy, like it was so many people I got along with. I had so many friends in Philly. But no, that's not my experience here. My experience here is I go to work and I come home basically. And
I would get bored.
Yeah,
you don't get bored?
I mean, I got a lot of work to do while I'm there, so it's not like necessarily boring, but like it's not enjoyable.
I'm not saying. I was going to say
it's not enjoyable at all. Another thing that you need to consider is like what vibe are you getting from your supervisor? Does this person seem like they're going to be like over your shoulder all the time? Yeah. Or does it seem like you're never going to be able to ask them questions? These are things that you need to ask them, like, what kind of employee do you want? Like, do you want someone that's more independent? Do you mind if someone asks you questions? Are there people here who are willing to mentor? I always ask people, like, are people here information hogs, basically? Right. Because there will be people who will work for a company for a long time. They're super knowledgeable. They have all of the answers in the world, but they will not try to tell you what they know. And it's either because they feel like you're going to be in competition with them, they're threatened by you, or it's because like they really just are not good teachers. Yeah. They don't feel like taking the time to help you because they already have their workload. If 1000%, if you're a new to your field coming out of college, do not go to that job. You're going to be miserable. Okay, so will this job help your career and provide job security? Again, I'm a structural engineer, which means that I have to do a lot of different design on different stuff. So I need to be able to know how to design foundations and walls and, ceilings and joists and beams and all of these different things. Because my company is smaller, I'm able to work on a bunch of different projects. So I may be working on like a pumping station one day or a water treatment station one day, and the next day I'm working on a school. So I know how to do a lot of different structural design work. Whereas like if you work at a bigger company, sometimes you'll get put on to one thing, like, okay, this person only designs foundations. Yeah. Or like say for instance, I went for an interview where they design like light poles and stuff, like very simple stuff, which is fine. So you're gonna go to that
makes
company,
yourself more marketable.
You're gonna go to that company. They're gonna have like a spreadsheet already where you just type in a few numbers, and you'll be there for 5 years, right? And then you get fired, or the company goes tank, or you just want to go somewhere else. Now that means you have to try to find a company that does that specific thing, or you're gonna have to try and go to another company and learn the other stuff. And they're going to say, oh, well, what have you worked on? And you're going to say,
this.
Telephone poles. And then they're going to be like, oh, what else? And you're going to be like, telephone poles.
That's it.
So it's hard. Now, obviously, you have the degree and stuff. So if they're willing to be like, oh, well, you need to learn this other stuff on the job, then it's fine. But for the most part, I know that I have better marketability because I can say, oh yeah, when I worked on schools and I worked municipal, I worked all of these different things, so I'm more marketable.
Right.
If I do need to get another job, I know I will never have trouble getting another job. I can do project management, I can do design, I can do this, I can do that. There's no way I'm not going to get a job if I leave this job.
Yeah, but that's the one thing I like about my job, because they give you opportunities to take classes or gain certifications in not just what we do, but also in other topics like cloud, Unix, different cyber topics, so that if you do choose to get the certification for it, when you go and put your resume in, they be like, oh, you did this. Oh, but you are also certified in this. So that also looks well. Mm-hmm. So I definitely get that. Yeah.
And like you mentioned with the certifications and like the different, in the different training, you have to think about certain things if you want to get, like certifications or licenses for certain things. So for example, as a structural engineer, I'm about to sit for my PE in November. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I'm sitting for it in November is because you have to qualify. So you need like 4 years under a professional engineer, like someone else
in
who
order
has
to go
PE.
for it.
Yeah. And even just for me to apply, I need to have experience working under a PE for 4 years.
Wow.
So the time where I was working in the federal government, I was in program management. I was not working under a PE. So that time does not count. See what I mean? So now my time to get my PE is pushed back.
Yeah.
Which is why I can't get it until November.
That's crazy.
Exactly. So those are things that you need to consider.
Had I known that a lot of companies were looking at certifications, I definitely would have gotten a few while I was still in school, because it would have made me more marketable after college along with my degree. Exactly. Because now it's just not, oh, you have a degree. Oh, well, what type of certs do you have? Right.
Exactly. So those are definitely things you need to consider, especially if you are like civil engineer, mechanical engineer. And when you get there, ask them, hey, do you pay for licenses? And also, do you have someone with a PE that I will be working under so that I can qualify to take the test? Another thing is, how easy is it for you to be fired? Don't laugh, because it's true. If you have enough time with the federal government or like certain government places, it's hard for you to get fired. There will be people falling asleep at desk or doing whatever. It's a process to get fired.
They will sit there and push you to retire before they fire you,
because it's too much. It's too much or say for instance, if you have a job
or
where
go for counseling,
you're a plumber or something, and you're in a union, it's hard for you to get fired. Yeah. After your probationary.
So probationary, you're gonna have to zip your lips.
It's just like once you're if you're an associate professor or something, you can get fired. But once you have your a tenure professor, you're not getting fired. No. They're going to figure something out. They're going to give you
roll you out.
What else? So that goes into what you're saying about probation. Like, how long are you going to be on probation? Because basically, when you're on probation, it means they can fire you. And then also, will this job support my goals? So say for instance, if I ultimately want to be like the vice president of a engineering company, right? Is there ever a possibility for me to get up there? For me to be a VP of the company?
Do you feel like they'll be honest though about that?
I do,
especially if they're looking for example,
employees. At my company, there is no VP of anything, so I know
you're never gonna get it.
Never be the VP of this company because the position does not even exist. Maybe you want to be a project manager eventually. Can you do that here? Another one. What will be expected of you?
Girl, you got a long list.
Because you need to think about it. I'm trying to get you together before you even go into the job, before you even put the application in. So what will be expected of you? Are you going to be required to do overtime? Like Moriah said, she had forced overtime. For me, I work private. It is not forced overtime, but technically, when you really think about it, I can't not submit a project. Right. So if that requires overtime, if I'm having to work 10, 12, 15 hours in a day to make sure that we meet a deadline, so you need to think about stuff like, are they going to be asking you to travel? Yeah. Are they going to be asking you to go out on like a construction site, or are you going to be sitting at a desk all day? If you're someone with like ADD, ADHD, you probably don't want to sit at a damn desk all day.
Yeah.
And if you're someone who has a family, you probably don't want to go on
a lot of trips,
a lot of work trips for two weeks at a time.
Yeah, that is
3
a big
weeks
thing.
at a time. The last one, what is the quality of your HR?
Oh.
Because one of the jobs that I was talking to, that I was talking to y'all about earlier, it was a federal job. I was offered the position, right? And when they had originally gave me my offer letter, it was a certain amount of money.
Right.
I had put in my 2 weeks. I did all of that stuff, right? And then at the very last moment, I had to like do my final signatures on the stuff. They said it was a new offer.
Less?
It was a new salary amount.
And it was less?
It was less. I said, what is this? And they're like, what do you mean? This is not the first offer letter that I received.
Oh, no.
It was ridiculous. It was basically like they were wrong.
Right.
Instead of fixing the mistake, they were like, oh, well, it is what it is. Take it or leave it. So it was like having to talk to the head of this, the head of this division, and they're trying to get me the right amount of money, but then HR is pushing back because obviously they feel stupid that they made the mistake. Guess what? I'm not going to come there.
I know, like, when I was going to my current job, you work with recruiters.
Yeah.
And sometimes they change if they go to another position. I think I had, like, 3 different recruiters in between my time coming there. And then I remember my recruiter, she was like, go ahead and put your 2 weeks in. I'm like, are you sure? Because don't have me put my 2 weeks in. And because she gave me, like, 3 different dates to start.
Right.
And I think I chose October. I'm like, if I can start next month, I'm with it.
Yeah.
And then I think I graduated with my master's in December. So then she said, go ahead, this is fine. I said, okay, put my 2 weeks in. The day after I put my 2 weeks in, she emails me back saying, I'm sorry, we want to bring you in at the right grade, so we want you to come in January after you received your degree.
Yeah, see, I
was like, didn't I ask you?
I don't like stuff like that.
Didn't I ask you before I put my 2 weeks in?
And this is going to get serious, but as a woman in the workforce, especially when you're in STEM or male-dominated fields, there are going to be chances that you may be sexually harassed, sexually assaulted.
Yeah. Some
kind of inappropriate things happen, and you want to make sure that the HR is going to be receptive to what you're saying, that there's a procedure for what's going on and everything else. Like, you need to make sure that those things are handled properly.
Not just with gender, even with racial.
Yeah, racially too.
Yeah, that's true.
And now you
I feel like
I told you.
I feel like your list, like what we've discussed so far, was like perfect. Honestly,
it was
the only thing I would probably add would be ask about work and home life balance, especially as a woman, and it can affect men too.
Yes. So
whenever you're ready to have kids or adopt or foster anything like that, what type of work-life balance does that job offer?
Exactly.
Do they give time off for pregnancies?
Yes, especially for men as well.
Yep, men too.
Non-gender conforming folks. Sorry.
Anybody.
Yeah, anybody.
And like or do you have to use sick leave or personal leave and stuff like that? And if that's the case, then you really have to save depending on how much leave you accumulate. So we lucked up, because before we would have to use sick leave too, but we lucked up where now that the government gives 6 months to men and women.
So you know what time it is, right?
Yerp. It's time for the STEM Women of the Day.
Oh yeah.
All right, so today, y'all, I found, listen, she make me feel bad a little bit. I ain't even gonna lie.
Why?
Because, y'all, I found this 12-year-old coder, and you might as well call her a tech entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
Named Samara Mehta. I hope I said your name correctly, sweetheart. Let me give you a little background. So she started learning coding from her dad, who's an engineer, at 6 years old. She created this board game called Coder Bunnies that teaches children how to code.
No, is the board game on the computer or is it like a physical board game? It's
a physical board game.
Oh, cool.
Basically, she combined coding and her favorite animal, bunnies, which is how she got Coder Bunnies.
That is such like a 12-year-old thing, but it's so
it's
cute,
so cute though. Like, it's so cute. So basically, the game, they said her brother helped her make it as well, as her father. But she has spoken at conferences and workshops that include conferences and workshops for Microsoft, Intel, and Google.
Those are the big hitters.
Amazing.
It's amazing. And then you also said that they actually use it in schools, right?
Yeah, they use it in over 100 schools.
Yeah, that means that, okay, anybody can technically make a board game. I get it. But the fact that schools actually said, oh, we think that this is good enough to bring into our schools and teach kids how to code, that means that it's official. Like,
when I tell you, honey, I'm sure you don't even have to do much once you get older. Mm-hmm. Like, she's already made, like, in 2019, $600K from this game alone. Mm-hmm. And she probably gonna have her PhD by the time she's 16.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even put it past her, honestly. So now she is making another game called Coder Minds, which teaches the concepts of artificial intelligence. Like, she said that her dad helped to design an AI chip for self-driving cars and drones. So that had her thinking, like, how can I teach AI to other people? Girl, you need a secretary.
Right.
She said the idea for her game is that you train your robot using code cards, and basically your robot has to get to the end by training it. Whoever you're playing against, I guess they can zap you, which will kind of like break down your robot.
And I really love the fact that every time she has an idea or anytime she learns something, she's like, how can I teach other kids the same concept?
And shout out to her parents, because like her dad is amazing to even get his child in that mindset so early.
If you have children, no matter what your profession is, if you work in the medical field, if you work in the food industry, make sure you're sharing it with your children, because you never know how that skill can be multiplied through them. Like, maybe you do nails and you teach your son or your daughter how to, the tricks of the trade of doing nails, and then they become this huge nail technician. Like, they build an empire off of it.
Yeah.
You should always be trying to feed stuff down to your kids, because it's just going to be like bountiful and multiply. So that's an example of that. He didn't have to do that. He could have just been an engineer himself, let her go through school or whatever else. But he was like, no, I'm going to teach you this. So that's our third episode. One more to go for the year.
Yes, check it out. Our last episode will be
in 2
fun.
weeks.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It's all about the holidays.
But I think that's all for us.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.